Welcome to the Impact Recovery Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Pritchard. This is a podcast where we dive deep into the real, uncensored truths about addiction, recovery, and everything in between. No sugarcoating, no judgment, just honest conversations that can help lift up the solution. So let's get started. Today, I am so excited. I have my very, very best friend, Jenna Caughman, is on. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so pumped up about this.
I know I've been waiting to come on for a while. I'm like, oh, I'd love to come on. I'm like, does she want me on?
Yes.
Yes. I'm excited.
Just so the listeners and watchers know, we've been best friends since first grade. So we literally have a lifetime together, which is amazing. And I was like thinking about that on the way here and getting like emotional. So I'll probably cry some, but I'm just like so grateful.
I know. And it's wild, like, especially now having a little girl of my own, I'm more aware of like what age everybody's in school. And I was thinking too, I'm like, first grade, like you're so young.
I know.
And, I remember a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really neat. And it's wonderful to have a friend for this long, obviously. Like you said, we've been through so much, and to have this unique shared experience, it's like God had a plan in first grade for us.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to think back. I'm just like, oh, this is my friend. And now we've gone through so much, and here we are together. It's just been a wild ride.
Which we'll get into a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are going to be people that are surprised to see you on here.
I probably.
Which I love,
I know.
It's just, and I'm so glad that you were open to actually coming on, because I think there can be a lot of shame and guilt, and, it's hard for some people to share. So this, I have a feeling, will help others share.
I hope so. And that's, why I'm on today, to hopefully help someone else. And yeah, I'm pretty private when it comes to, my personal life, and I usually keep things pretty close to the chest. But honestly, like when I am in the recovery circle and I share a lot about my life, it's just, this will be like obviously the first time that I've done it where it's recorded. So that's what's unique about this. So yeah, I'm excited.
We're talking about first grade and stuff, like about your childhood and maybe growing up, which we have a lot of the like same shared experience around some of that stuff. But was there anything like growing up when you realized you had a drinking problem, like, oh, maybe that's the reason why I'm an alcoholic, even though we know today it's a disease and like, it's probably a part of our genetics situation, or was, or maybe not. I'm just curious because everybody seems to have like a different perspective around that.
Yeah. And I think that's always like a hot topic of conversation. Yeah. So just looking back at my childhood, like you said, we were pretty parallel when it comes to our story, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
But when we first met. But if I go back to when I was really little, I think the major difference I have is my parents separated before I was 1 year old. And so I think coming from a divorced family, it's difficult. Regardless of what age families get divorced, I think that young, it was really hard for me. And I think later on in life, I was able to really understand how that affected me personally. And once I got sober, I was actually able to like really deep dive into some of those things that it kind of internally, kind of pulled me in one direction or another. But I think what's important and something that I've always known, and I think was really important for me when I did my amends with my family, is like, just because I went, my family went through a divorce when I was little, and that, caused some issues within me, that doesn't make me an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Both my parents were like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, look, yes, it was a hard time, but that's not why I have these problems.
Yeah.
And so, if we look at like your story and mine, like I have the divorce in my family, you didn't. You're interviewing me.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't, it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily matter. I think that people have a lot of hot takes on that. But for me, I'm pretty crystal clear that it's kind of a perfect storm of a lot of things that can kind of take me to where I was before.
Okay, so that was obviously at a very
Very
young
young
age.
age.
And then we, went to school together. We got into cheerleading. I guess kind of walk us through like before we started drinking, like if you remember you felt any sort of way like before you drank and then what happened when you drank for the first time.
I was always and still have been. I'm more introverted, so I was always more on the shy side, which was great to have you as a best friend because you were like woo, and I'm just like sitting here. But yeah, I've always kind of felt like a loner in some ways, and I don't know it's exactly what caused that or what causes that, but yeah, I've always felt a little different. Like I said, I can't really put my finger on it.
Yeah.
I've always had that kind of internal just turmoil to an extent. Now looking back, definitely can notice that. But at the time, I just thought that was just me.
Which I think people would be surprised to hear that because like when we were in school, we had lots of friends.
Yeah.
We had a lot going on. Like you were like homecoming or something.
4 years in a row.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So, like,
But yeah.
so
absolutely.
you saying like, I feel like a loner,
Mhm.
it just goes to show that like, we don't know what's going on inside somebody's mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure from the outside looking in, like, and the truth is like we had great lives.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from anything that we had experienced in our life. Like we had a great group of friends. I think, we were basically, pretty happy.
Yeah.
Great upbringing. I think we had everything we necessarily needed, a roof over our head. We had food,
Yeah.
everything, seemed to be pretty good. But like I said, I always had that kind of internal restlessness.
Yeah.
That now I can kind of understand a lot more.
Right. When was the first time you drank?
Oof. It was a vanilla Smirnoff night.
Okay.
Lord.
I know. Well, and I was thinking about that this morning too.
Yeah.
I was not there.
You weren't there?
No, I was at my grandparents'.
God, lucky girl.
Well, and share a little bit about that night which is crazy because I was jealous. I was like, had FOMO that I missed it. And it was like a disaster night.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what age were we at?
I think it was like 8th grade.
I think it was
or
8th
summer going into 9th grade, maybe.
Something along those lines. Because
Yeah.
I think it was around 8th grade that we first started drinking. But yeah, we got our hands on some, vanilla Smirnoff. And I think we were supposed to mix it with Coke. And I was just like, I got very sick.
Yeah.
All of us did. We were just a mess. And it wasn't at that point that I was like, yeah, this is amazing. I was like, this is nasty.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people were like, right when that alcohol hit my lips, I felt it. And that wasn't my experience at all. It wasn't until, like, of course, I drank again after that. Like, I'm like, okay, maybe we should just have a lot less.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until after that when drinking kind of became part of our weekends, I think that's when I really kind of felt like, oh, whatever that is internally for me can be quieted a little bit. And like, I was very shy. So like, I became way more outgoing. And I remember like drinking and going out. And then the next day people being like, oh my God, Jenna, you are so fun. And I'm like, I wasn't I?
Yeah.
So I think there was just a lot of times where it was really fun. And our group of friends, like, and everybody was doing the same thing. So as far as like you and I go, like, we were not any different, I thought in my mind than anyone else.
I mean, and we were, like you said, partying on the weekends in high school and drinking, and everybody's drinking, everyone's partying. And so it was just kind of like the norm. And same with college. Were there any like red flags popping up at that point? And maybe like we wouldn't have seen them as red flags at that time, but like looking back, was your alcoholism progressing or was it still more of like the party scene, typical college kid?
So many red flags. Like I was a walking red flag. So I feel like I never drank normal, ever.
Yeah.
And that to me is a red flag. If someone was like, oh, I think I'm going to go out, and it's like a Tuesday, I'm like, I'll be right there. Let me get ready. Like I just was always down. And it wasn't like, and we've talked about this too in our sobriety, it wasn't like I would like go to dinner and like have a glass of wine and then be like, oh, that wine wasn't that good. And I have something tomorrow morning. I'd be like, like I was ready to go.
Yeah.
Or else I just wouldn't go out,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think, there were a lot of red flags because there were so many nights where it was just a disaster. But on the flip side, there were so many nights where it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's, kind of where I justified it. And I will say, like, towards the end, it was way more disaster than fun.
Yeah.
And it was not fun at all.
Right.
But yeah, like in college and stuff, like, I think I had a really good time with drinking. When I'm looking back, I just don't think I could have been in recovery in college.
Yeah.
And I, like, at that point, like, I hadn't crossed the line. Like, I could manage it. And so it never really looked great for me.
Yeah.
I will say.
Yeah. Well, and like, that's why another reason. It's like, no wonder we're best friends. Like,
I know.
because we were always down to go out.
And I'm like, Sarah, should we go out? You're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah.
I know. Or like mimosas, or,
I know.
We'd go through a breakup.
Oh
and
my
it's
God, the
like,
breakup parties. We went through so many breakups. I've had like 500 boyfriends. I'm like, it's like, cheers, we got a new boyfriend. Cheers, we just broke up.
Yeah.
Like, there was always a reason for us to cheers.
Yeah. So you and I didn't get sober at the same time. My experience, I mean, like any alcoholic, like it's chaos, a mess, drama. I'm curious to know, like, your perspective when you started seeing me, like, go through all this, like, and when I went to treatment and all that, like, what were your thoughts on that?
I don't even know what to think because it felt surreal. It really did. Kind of. I was just like, what's happening here? Yeah. So when you were going through those really difficult times, I just remember feeling like anybody from the outside, looking in, watching someone they care about just struggle. And we didn't live together, like you had other roommates and I lived, more downtown. And I think you were in Buckhead for a while. And like, it was hard to watch. And like, still at that point, I was still kind of like managing my drinking. But I will say there was this little voice in the back of my head being like, Jenna, you and Sarah are so alike. Like, this could be you.
Wow.
And I was like, mute.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it won't. And like, there's a lot of cases where it isn't, right?
Yeah.
But because we were so similar in our drinking, and just the way we went about it and like our thought process around drinking, I just was like, oh my God, like I really do think like this could happen to me. So I was watching it with like popcorn in my hand, I mean, not in a bad way, but I was just like, wow, like these things that she's going through, these really tough things, could possibly happen to me.
Yeah.
And even knowing that, I still didn't tiptoe around it.
Yeah.
I was like, no way.
We're like, but it won't happen to me.
Yeah.
Typical, we say. I mean, I remember I was at an IOP and there was like a family program or something, a friends and family night, and you came. And I just remember you saying one time, like, they were talking about like the alcoholic brain, and you were like, this is me.
I was like, Sarah, I have that brain. Another red flag.
Yeah.
Like, there's like throughout my life, there have been these red flags that I have noticed, but I haven't addressed.
Yeah.
At this point. And yeah, going to that IOP that you're at, I think I was there with your mom, maybe even your sister. I was just like, wow, like I resonate with this. But the thing is, I did not know what alcoholism was. And I did not understand it. And I think that's what so many people don't understand as well. It's like, why don't they get this? There's no course in college that teaches you of like what this could evolve and turn into.
Right.
And so, yeah, I was just like, oh, I could run into some real issues.
Yeah, I know. And that was, I mean, even at that point, like, because I had been to treatment and I was in this IOP and detox and hospital and all these things, I still didn't even, like, at that point in time, I didn't even know what alcoholism was. And so it is very confusing. And I'm glad you touched on it earlier. You're like, just because my parents got divorced at a young age, that's not what made me alcoholic. Like, once the alcohol goes in, there's just no control on the consumption. Like
Mm-hmm.
all bets are off and my body craves more.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said, you're like, I'm never going out for a glass of wine and then going home. It's like, no, we're going to keep going.
I know. Even after I got sober, I'm like, Sarah, there's this girl at a table next to me and she's not touching her wine. I'm like, what a waste. People do this? Because I was like aware of my surroundings. I'm like, oh my God, like people will just have a sip.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, what's the point? You know?
Most of our friends are not one of us.
Yeah.
But we kind of surrounded ourselves with people that maybe drank heavy or whatever. So I wasn't really hanging out with a lot, especially at the end, like hanging out with somebody that would have like half a glass of wine.
No.
Like that wasn't my scene.
No.
Yeah.
It would be like Sally would have a glass of wine. She'd call me. I'm like, silence.
Yeah.
You know?
So eventually I had my whole thing, got sober. Did you have thoughts around, like, did that spark anything in you? Or was it more of just, you were still so in the disease that like what was going on at that time? Or tell us a little bit about that. Because that kind of was when yours started progressing, was when I got sober, I think.
Mm-hmm. Because I called you.
Yeah.
Or I'd be like, hey, you know, this is happening. And I'm sure in your mind, you're like, wow, she's one of us. Like, I'm just waiting for her to get it. I think I realized that I think at that point, like once you had gotten sober, at that point, I saw your life change.
Mm-hmm.
And like you had been through so much with getting sober, like you just said. And then you got sober and like you started getting all the things that I still wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And again, because we were so similar, I was kind of getting sick of doing stupid stuff.
Yeah.
You know? And I didn't have any like really big consequence other than my life just always seemed to kind of be a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got sober, I was definitely leaning more on you and kind of like getting more curious.
Yeah. Well, and when you say your life was kind of always a mess, like our text talks about like the alcoholic life seemed the only normal one. We live a certain way for so long. It's like, this is my normal life. And then, you know, it progresses over time. So it's not like one day you're just like drinking and going out on the weekends. And then the next day you're drinking in the morning 24/7. Like it slowly happens over time and it like chips away and chips away. And then all of a sudden, before I knew it, I'm like, what's happening here?
Yeah. Before you know it, you're in your late 20s.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I think that was another signal too. Like our high school girlfriends, you know, got married, not young, but younger, and started having families and babies. And, you know, I just kept on drifting around.
Yeah.
You know? So I think also age kind of was also another one of the many flags of like, why am I not settling down?
Right.
Like, why do I not feel the need to have a family?
Mm-hmm.
And it was because, you know, there was one moment where I was like, if I had kids, like, I don't think I could drink anymore, you know, because I just don't think I could put up with what I have going on and also take care of a kid in a responsible way.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thought, to think that I could just choose, like push like monumental things in my life aside because I could not envision not drinking anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's wild.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it just goes to show on how powerful the alcohol is and like what it does for us. Because yes, our lives were a mess, but we went back to it because it provided some sort of ease and comfort. Like it, you know, I got to be able to not be in reality. And like all my fears and all my worries and everything just went away. And then of course it would come back and, you know, and so it's like this vicious cycle that we're in.
Absolutely.
I remember experiencing you like once I got sober and being like, okay, I never was like saying like, yeah, she's absolutely one of us. But I was like, there's probably a good chance.
And I wasn't telling you everything at the moment.
Even when you called me that one time asking about like, I don't even really exactly remember what it was, but you downplayed it so much.
You're like, how much do you drink? I'm like a beer. You know?
I'm like,
meanwhile,
okay,
I'm like,
well, she doesn't
guzzling
need
wine.
to be medically detoxed. Like, I just didn't.
Right.
I knew you were drinking, and like, obviously, we know each other so well. So, like, I know when you're under the influence. Like, I know when you've had more than one. Like, I could tell.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't my place to be like, we're gonna have an intervention on Jenna, because I had no idea like how bad it had gotten for you.
And that's what's scary about towards the end for people that are suffering from addiction. Sometimes it's blaring, but sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
And usually towards the end, at least in my experience, I was so isolated. I just wouldn't answer the phone. I wouldn't reach out to people. Like, I just was trying to get by at that point, which is the worst place to be. I remember once you had gotten sober, like I said, like some things started kind of clicking, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start cutting back. Am I crazy? I'm like 10 years too late. No, there's never too late, but I should have tried a long time ago.
Like a normal drinker would have cut back years ago.
Or stopped. They would have stopped.
Yeah.
You know, like just stop. And so like I did everything that you say in the book. And, you know, I'd try just having beer only on the weekends. Like I literally tried every possible way. And once I got to that point where I was trying to stop in every possible way and could not, that's when I knew, like, oh my God, like I can't stop. And like, not only can I not stop, like when you try and limit, the second that I had a drink, it got to the point where I had crossed the line. And it just would just continue. And I would be like, the next day I'd be like, wow, I was just gonna have a drink. Like, why did I go out to the bars afterwards? Like, why did I do all of this?
Yeah.
And I started kind of putting the pieces together. But what that did for me was make me just want to mute it even more.
Yeah, not face it.
And that's when I really went into like the darkness. Because I started understanding I had a problem. I couldn't fix it on my own. I couldn't cut back and I couldn't stop. And I didn't want to face the fact. So I'm like, okay, I'll just drink more.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely insane.
Yes.
Like, it's insane.
It is.
And for people listening that don't necessarily understand addiction, like in our families that are watching from the outside looking in, they're like, I don't understand, like, why you just don't stop. I have no idea how much I would love to stop and like how much I've tried.
Yeah. When was it when it got to the point of like obviously you got help. Obviously something shifted. So walk us through maybe that period of time of like maybe when you tried to stop, or was like the first time you actually tried, did you stop? Like what did that like period of time look like for you when it people started finding out? And I mean people like your family and
I think it was right after what I was just kind of touching on of like when I tried so hard on my own and it didn't work and I tried everything possible. Like when you get to that point, you feel so low.
Yeah.
You're so defeated because you're like, I don't have any other options. I did not understand. I thought that I just was like a failure.
Yeah.
I was like, this is pathetic, Jenna. Like you seriously can't stop on your own. Like what is wrong with you? You're losing time in your life. Like you're missing out on things. Like what is wrong with you? And I just went into just darkness. It was like I was there, but I wasn't. I like didn't want to participate in what my life had become. And a lot of it was just internal. Really, I mean, externally, it wasn't great. I felt like a zombie.
Yeah.
Like my spark was gone. I hadn't laughed in these like years, and like I love laughing.
I
and like
know.
I love being at this part. And I love that we're able to talk about it and just like laugh our butts off of like, wow, that was insane.
Yeah.
It just got really dark and I just kind of gave up because I did not have any other way to try to stop.
Well, and I'll mention this like in our text when it talks about he couldn't imagine life with alcohol or without it. They were at the jumping off place. I'm paraphrasing, but like that's the moment that it seems like you're talking about. I had that moment of like, what am I going to do? Like, what do? I can't imagine life without alcohol, but I certainly can't imagine life with it because my life is a disaster. So it's like a very scary, dark, as you said, place to be.
Then I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is my final try at stopping drinking. And like, I stopped for a month. But in the process of stopping, like, because I had been so dark, internally, and drank so much. I was at the point where I was just drinking all the time. It was just weekends. Like, I was like, I cannot face my reality right now. So I had been drinking a lot. And so I tried to stop, and like I said, I did for a month. But in the process of me stopping, I had some gnarly withdrawals. And like you wake up like shaking and stuff like that, and like horrible headaches, just like nauseous. Like my body was just, it wasn't well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I wasn't working out, I wasn't eating healthy.
Yeah.
I just I just felt unhealthy. And I was like on day 1 and day 2 of stopping. And this was when I think I called you or I texted you. Did we talk on the phone?
I think we talked on the phone.
Okay, I think we talked on the phone. I was just like, hey, Sarah, so like I'm not doing well, And like at this point I still wasn't telling you everything, which is wild because we tell each other everything. But like I was experiencing like flashes. And part of the detox is just like, it's like hallucinations kind of things.
Which I had no idea. I didn't know you could have hallucinations from withdrawals from alcohol. I didn't know.
Either.
Yeah. Well, and like,
I just thought I was losing my mind. I'm like, hey, like I know you're an alcoholic, but I'm insane.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy. Like I didn't even know when I was going through it, trying to like stop on my own. I didn't know that you can have seizures from withdrawals from alcohol. You can die. Like the alcohol and benzos are I think the two that like you can literally die from trying to detox on your own. But you can have hallucinations too, which is crazy to me because hallucinations, I think drugs.
Me too. Which you and I are so against. We're like, no, I'm not touching drugs, but I will drink that bottle of wine in 2 seconds.
Right. I'm glad you're bringing this up because I think a lot of people you and I were literally experiencing it and we didn't even know about it. And so it's important. And now I've seen it and heard from many alcoholics like, oh yeah, I hallucinated. This happened. There was a concert going on in my room. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. But I just had no idea. And then for you to be experiencing that, I'm sure was even more scary.
Oh, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, I'm on my phone Googling, like, why am I seeing flashes? Like, why are these things happening to me that are freaking me out?
Yeah.
And it was tough. And yeah, like, so eventually, that went away and, I was starting to feel myself again. But it was a solid 4 days of just not being well and just feeling very out of body.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right, I've already come this far. Like, I'm going to keep going. I think you were like, flat? Like, what? I've never heard of that. I'm like, oh, gosh.
Well, and I don't even think you, like, told me the full...
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember what you said, but whatever it was did not make me think she needs to go to the hospital, which you probably should have been going to the
100%.
hospital.
I was just like, yeah, I definitely should have. Now looking back, doing the research. But yeah, so anyways, I got to the other side of that and I didn't drink for a month. And like, honestly, I was feeling pretty good. I was like, wow, like I did it. And then I was never going to just stop drinking in general because like, hell no.
Why would we do that?
Why would I do that? Yeah. And so, which is also crazy. Yeah. And then something came up and someone at dinner was like, oh, we haven't drank for a month. Like, just like, let's have a beer. And I'm like, you know what? I earned it, which is insane because, what I had gone through leading up to that was not good. And so I drank again. And the fact that I drank again after going through all of that, it scared me. And I was like, now I cannot stop because then I'm going to have to go through that again.
Yeah.
And that was when I completely lost all control because I couldn't try anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
and it is like the insanity piece. The delusional mind of an alcoholic is that stone cold sober. We think it'll be okay picking up a drink again. Yep. And everything you went through, you can't bring that into your mind. And even if you did, it's like readily supplanted by the old idea that you can drink normally. It's that's the delusion that we're under, which is so That's the scary part.
It's terrifying.
Because our minds are essentially hijacked, stone cold sober, being like, yeah, Sarah, this glass of wine, of course it'll be okay. Because I truly believe it's going to be okay. And then we start, and like we talked about earlier, that no control, we're off. Once it goes in, all bets are off, and our bodies take over.
And there's a certain low that you feel at that point that is so helpless and so sad that like only we understand what that's like. Us and, other people in the program, like it's awful.
Yeah.
You wouldn't wish it upon like your worst enemy. It's just low.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, after that happened, I just kind of gave up and I went back to drinking. And eventually I collapsed. I collapsed a couple times, but this time I was surrounded by friends. And my friends took me to the hospital where, like, I was a shell of a person. I went to the hospital. My family, like my sister and my mom, showed up. And I woke up the next morning and they were like, you can't, like, live like this. And I was like, no, like, and they didn't even know, like, half of it. And they're like, well, we talked to Sarah. And we think that you should go to this place in the mountains. And of course, I was like,
You're like, I think I know about this place.
I was like, I know all about it. She sent me a postcard from this place.
Like, I've written letters to her.
And at this point, I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Like a couple years ago, she sent me a postcard and I was thinking like, I'm going to end up here, and so I ended up asking for help. And that took courage.
Yeah.
Wow. That took a lot of courage because you want to think that you can do it on your own.
Yeah.
I really wanted to think, and I gave it everything I did, everything I had. And I was like, you know what? The life that I was living was not worth living. And so I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So I went up to the mountains and it was quite lovely. Quite nice, really.
Yeah.
It was as good as it could be.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, I remember, this is so hilarious. I remember writing you a postcard. I'm like, hey, I'm here. Which is like so funny. Like it is ridiculous.
It's so like sad, but
it's sad.
Hilarious.
Like, it's like, what? Our parents are probably like, oh God, But yeah, no, I mean, I asked for help and that was the first step to the best thing that I've done for myself.
When you got out, did you stay sober?
No.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, right when I got there, they handed me this book. And I didn't really stay there very long.
Yeah.
But after a couple days, I was like, I'm gonna crack this sucker open. And it's funny because it's written, like the version I have is for like a 10th grader. Like the text is large.
Yeah.
Like if you have any problem reading, you're gonna get into this book. And honestly, it's not very long.
Mm-hmm.
I remember sitting on the front porch in a rocking chair with a blanket out there. It was quiet, it was still, and I just read this book. Like the whole thing. I was out there all day. And it was a major turning point for me because I was like, somebody wrote this book for me. It explained everything that I had gone through. I felt no longer like alone. I was like, oh my God, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Like there is somebody that has written this book.
In the 1930s.
In the 1930s. And like, so at that point I was like, it connected with me so much and I was just bawling. I remember one of the men that worked there and he was like, what do you think? And I was like, I think somebody wrote this book for me. And he was like, yeah, it's for me too,
Yeah.
And it was hard. I think I had a better understanding of what alcoholism was, and it was scary.
Yeah.
So like here I am like reading this book, getting a better understanding of what alcoholism is, but also I don't know. I don't really think you're supposed to read it before you I read it front to back, so I knew what all of the steps were. And I was like, okay, well, if this is true, I got some work ahead of me to do. And that scared me.
Yeah. And then so you did not stay sober when you got out.
No,
but
I got out. I was like, peace, Felicia.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be good now, you know?
Because you, just like me, didn't do anything they had told us that we needed to do. But you didn't last very long out there in the free world before.
In the free world, I was like, yeah, I'm good. You know, that book, parts of that book, you know, and I was kind of downplaying. I'm like, maybe that book wasn't for me, you know? I think there were a couple things in there, but like maybe not all of it. Yeah, like all of it, you know? And at this point, I still had that obsession that I could possibly still drink like a normal person.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Mm-hmm. It's insane. Like, granted, all the things that I had been through up until then. And, I'd been out for like a couple weeks and nothing, happened. I just was like, I'm just going to have a sip. I'm just going to have a sip and just see what happens, because there is a chance that I could just have a sip. It's just hilarious. It's hilarious. Like, so funny. And so, yeah, I had a sip that turned into like 100 million sips. Because I am an alcoholic and I can't just have a sip.
Yeah.
And although that was insane, it got me to that first step.
Yeah.
Because once I snapped out of it, that drinking that happened after that first step, a couple days or whatever, I knew that was it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's it.
Enough experimentation. We're done.
Okay. I think and that was when I called you and I was like, yeah, I think I got what you got. Yeah. And I need to know what to do because I'm ready to do it. Mm-hmm. And at that point I was all in.
Yeah.
And that was a great place to be.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's required because you're right. Like, reading this book, there's some work to do and it's uncomfortable and inconvenient. And so the bad has got to outweigh the good. Like, it's got to be so bad that I'm willing to do this and actually believe and trust that it could work for me. Even though I may not understand why it could work for me, but like, just like you, like seeing all these people around me that have what I have, but they're living happy, free lives. Like, I had to trust that because there were no other options left.
Nothing left.
Nothing. Mm-hmm. And I just remember talking to you and being like, even during that time when you were still drinking a little bit after you got out, of like, call her friend Emily. Just call her. And like, I was talking to your family. I'm like, she just needs to call this girl. Mm-hmm. And they're probably like, why is she... Like, no, she needs something more, And I'm like, no, she needs to do this work and she will be okay. Mm-hmm. Then, finally, when you got to that place, I was like, thank the Lord.
Oh, I know. Seriously. And so I called Emily.
Yeah.
Random girl. I was like, hi, I need you to save my life. And so I called her and I was like, hey, I need to go through the steps. I'm ready. Let's go. And of course, when you get that call from someone that you're going to be sponsoring, sometimes you don't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, are you really? I think she was like at the beach or something. And she was like, okay, well, let's meet in a week. I'm at the beach. And I just remember thinking, a week? I was like, what am I going to do for a week? Like, how am I going to get through this? But yeah, I waited for a week. I met her and she was just... When she came in, I was just like, this girl is the coolest girl in the world.
Yeah.
Like, she really is.
Yeah.
She was just perfect for me.
Mm-hmm.
She was.
Yeah.
And worked with her. She gave me the hard truth. And I was literally, she could have been like, okay, now I need you to go run around a circle, do a backward roll. Like, she could have told me to do anything and I would have been like, on it, because I wanted it so bad.
Yeah.
I wanted it so bad. And like, even when I was going through the steps, I'm like, okay, am I done with this step? Let's go to the next one. Like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And so, God, I was so lucky that I found her, that God put her in my life. And I was so lucky that when I found her, I was at the place that I was like, let's go.
Yeah. Obviously, life got better. And And that was what, back in 2018?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was early sobriety, like were those first few weeks, months, was that hard for you to not drink? Or did the obsession to not drink get lifted pretty quickly? Or what did that look like?
Different people have different experiences with that.
Yeah.
Like, I was disgusted with drinking. And I think, like, especially at the beginning when you're around somebody who's, like, newly sober, people were like, oh, like they would, like, not have a glass of wine around me. And I'm like, do it. Like, you could not pay me $1 million to touch that.
Yeah.
And, like, thank God.
Which
right?
is incredible.
Incredible.
Because, and that's obviously God working in your life, because
Oh, yeah.
you couldn't drum that up on your own to be like disgusted with alcohol.
No. On my own. What?
Yeah.
It was a disaster. And so, yeah, for me, like, I could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I could go anywhere. I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
Like, I literally was like, oh my God, this is what life should be. I was so happy. And things just got so much better. Of course, it wasn't like, oh, I'm sober and my life is perfect. There was still a lot of work to do in mending relationships, you know, with my family, with my friends, just with like work in my life. Like, I really, that was hard, but like, I had been through so much that there was nothing that was harder than that.
Yeah.
Like, getting sober was way easier to me once I was in it.
Yes.
Like, going through the steps than going back out.
Right.
There was nothing harder than living that life.
I like to point that out because of like the obsession being lifted, of you being like, absolutely not. Because that's so much hope for someone that's struggling, or a family member that has someone, or a loved one that has someone.
Mm-hmm.
Because all we could think about or obsess about or have delusions about is alcohol. And then all of a sudden it's like the complete opposite. Like, I don't even want to be near it.
It's disgusting.
And
like, sometimes I'll smell and I'll be like, like, that is nasty.
it's just so crazy.
It's wild.
It's like the miracle of this program, which is why I think you and I are both so passionate about it, because we're like, look at our lives and then look what happened now. And and I also like to point out how you know, you can be a very like shy person or whatever, but you've always been this like activities girl. Like, you want to do things, you know, you were living on the Beltline. And so I just think of you during that dark time of just like living in your condo, not doing anything. And then now you come on the other side of it and you get back to like living life and like doing all these fun things that you want to do.
I was like, let's go smell the flowers smell so good today.
Yeah.
And it was just like normal life.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, like, I think that is the miracle of the program. It's the miracle of, you know, how God can work in our lives. And it's really hard to explain. Like, for those that are suffering, like, what else do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Like, what do you have so much to gain?
Yeah.
And it's this whole life that you could never expect.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. It really is.
I guess just like to kind of touch on your journey since then, like, you've had some struggles. Like, you've definitely had some hard times, and you stayed sober through it all.
The first year of sobriety, you are just, what do we call it? Like a pink cloud? Like, it's just, you just feel great because you're so used to feeling so bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, every day, even a hard day, I'm like, this is a great day, you know? But once you get past, like, all of that, you're back in normal life. And the reality is life isn't always fair. Life isn't always easy. And although I'm not like drinking and all of those things, like, you still hit some hard times. One of the harder parts in the beginning of my sobriety, I got into a relationship, and he was in the program as well. I think we bonded a lot over that. You know, it's hard not to.
Right.
Like, every time I see someone in the program, I'm like, hey, you know, just because it's just such a unique experience. And yeah, so we fell in love, we got engaged, and long story short, we did not get married. We had to call off our engagement, and that's a lot. You know, that's a hard pill to swallow, especially I would say like in earlier sobriety, because I think one other thing that you have to learn especially once you get sober, is like you're gonna come against these problems. And, we used to drink when like things were really great. We used to drink when things were really bad. So it's like in the middle is where I, is really kind of coasting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I had high highs. I'm like, oh, I'm engaged. I'm in this relationship. And then it's like low lows of like, oh, we're not going forward with this, calling off like a wedding and stuff like that, or engagement. And so like you really need to pick up some tools.
Yeah.
You need to have a toolbox to face some of these things that are harder in life, because no matter what, like none of us get out of here alive. Like we're gonna hit some hard times. And so yeah, like going through that, I really had to lean into, you and Emily and the program. And without that, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's tough. That's tough to pick yourself back up again.
And you did it. Like you just kept moving forward. You just kept moving your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then you found the love of your life.
Yeah.
And then, you know, everything changed. And so it just goes to show that like we go through these hard times, but there's always something better on the other side of it. Like there's always some sort of something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
And I think also because I had gone through so much leading up to that, I knew that I could do it. I was like, this is going to be hard, but like, I'm a badass.
Obviously.
I'm a badass, yeah, like, I just dug in deeper.
Yeah.
I dug in deeper to, the program, and I started doing some like real work on myself. I went to therapy. I dug into like, why am I getting myself into, relationships that don't work? Like why am I picking certain people?
Mm-hmm.
And that was really healing. That was really healing too. And I think the good thing about getting sober is like, it opens up. I'm like, if I can kick that, like what else can I kick?
Right.
What else can I do to make my life even better?
Yeah.
And it just gets you excited to do those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another big thing I got into is yoga. Like it's been wonderful for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been like one of my big tools.
Yeah.
I think everybody should have a tool when things are getting hard that's like active,
mm-hmm.
To get your body moving. And it's not like yoga solved my problems.
Right. No, but
helps.
it's just like another thing.
It's something,
to add to your toolbox.
Yeah. And so, I got through that. I started doing a lot of work on myself and just got to like living a life with just myself.
Yeah.
Like just me. Just concentrating on myself, not a relationship, not someone else, not anything else. And after I did that additional hard work was when I met my husband now. And he's wonderful.
Yeah.
He's just great, and I talk about it with him all the time. Like, he had his own growing pains to do as well. We met each other at the perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
Because God makes no mistakes, and we just, we balance each other out.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to have him. Obviously lucky to have me, and like we're building a wonderful life together.
Yeah.
And
your baby girl.
It's what it should be. It's what everybody should have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like happy to be here.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy to be here. Right?
Like what a way to go through life. We're just happy to be here.
I'm just in it for the ride.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of the things that I have now, I would never have if I didn't get sober.
Yeah.
And like I think at the beginning when you get sober, there's so much shame. At the beginning it was hard for me to talk about it. Because I still, even though I knew what alcoholism was, I knew other people didn't. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know I couldn't stop on my own. I know I need to do these things. But, like, this person over here has no idea.
Yeah.
And I cared a lot about what other people thought about me.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go through so much stuff, at some point you're like, well, I don't care.
I know.
Like, I'm living a good life.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm healthy. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
And nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Literally nobody's thinking about me.
No.
I'm like, well, what if I'm like, no, they're worried about their own stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all, you got to get out of your head.
Yeah.
And that's been a blessing too. But that did take time for me. And, it's still a work in progress.
Yeah. Always.
Always will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was great. Is there anything else you want to share?
There's one thing that I wanted to touch on, and it has to do with like religion and belief in God.
Yeah.
And one thing that I see a lot of people struggle with. So before I got sober, I was religious. I've always gone to church. I've always believed in God. And so like leading up to getting sober finally, I remember just being like, why am I going through this? You know, like the turmoil in my head. I'm like, if God loves me, why is he putting me through this? And then getting to the other side, you know, I was like, oh, here I am. But like, why did I go through all of that?
Right.
And I had this little devotional, you know, the one I'm talking about, the blue one that we gave.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Who's that author? I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Lisa something. Anyways, I was reading through some of my devotional, and it was just like, you know, when you get to devotionals, it's like something you need that day, and you're just like, yes. There was this verse that I read, and it said, is Corinthians, and it said, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear, but when you are tempted, he will prove you the way out. He will provide for you the way out so that you can endure it. And then it says, for my dear friends to flee. And I was like, oh my God. Getting into recovery in the fellowship and going through the 12 steps was like my way out.
Yeah.
And like, he does care, you know? And everybody has that way out. It's just like, am I willing to take those steps? Like, even though, you know, God loves me, like I have to do the work.
Yeah.
I have to take the steps. He's showing me in all these different ways, like, come on, your best friend did it. Like, you're going to go visit her. This could be, you know, like all these flags. But like ultimately, he gives us the power to make that first step, and we have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's a scary place to be, but like so worth it.
So worth it.
And it just like it just brought this peace over me. And I was like, wow, like, you know, I did that. And he led me to it.
Yeah.
And I'm just so thankful for it. And, you know, you and I, we got great lives. Of course, we have struggles and ups and downs. But like the only difference between us and somebody that's struggling is like we actually did the work.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's all.
That's it.
That's it. You know? So.
I love that. I'm
Yeah.
crying over here.
I know.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This was like the best.
Well, thank you for having me. And I hope I get to come back.
Yes. Duh.
Oh, and I saw that Adams was right before me. He brought out like a whiteboard. I'm like, oh, God.
I know.
I don't have any whiteboard, you know?
I really tried for him not to bring the whiteboard. I'm like, the whiteboard's not going to work. He has to have the whiteboard.
I listened to it on my way here. I had to turn it off. I was like, oh, God, you're going to get in your head?
Yeah. Thank you again.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And thank you for tuning into another episode. I hope today's conversation has inspired you, opened your mind, and maybe even your heart a little bit. And remember, you're not alone. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone that needs to hear it. And don't forget to like and subscribe. You'll find all of our information below. But until next time, keep making an impact. Bye, y'all.